Hey, it's the Fantasy Flow podcast. We back, baby.
We
I'm
back.
Austin. That's Andy. Andy's been on vacation. I've been dealing with a bunch of stuff, and now we're back. We're back. We just experienced the divisional round. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some breaking news, and we're going to talk about, of course, the conference championship games. Uh, Andy, tell everyone how you been, where you were at, and what's going on.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I left the country for New Zealand on January 3rd and got back on the 17th. And right when I got back, I started feeling super ill. And I had to go to the urgent care and found out I got pneumonia. So, been dealing with that all week. Been taking some pills and getting better. And man, today I've just feeling back to normal today. So, I've been out of the game, out of everything for about 3 weeks now. Feels
Just
like
bedridden.
so. Yeah, just between vacation and being out of the country and then being super sick. So it feels good to be back in the flow of things. Been watching football, of course, but yeah, New Zealand was a blast. Got another tattoo. Got a little bit of tan on me. So looking forward to being back home though.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm happy for you for that trip. That not the pneumonia part. That sounds tough. Uh, Man, yeah, I don't know if you missed a whole lot. I mean, there were some great games, but there was a lot of I don't know, blowouts, a lot of disappointing offense
Mm-hmm.
that we saw in the divisional round. The Chiefs won again, so I don't know.
Of
I
course.
like it could have been better in my opinion. The divisional round, usually that's like the best week of football. In my opinion, that's like the perfect combination of um, volume of games and quality of games. Is that divisional round feels like all the pretenders are out and we just get to see a bunch of great matchups. And I don't know, some of them were good, some of them weren't. Some of them were surprising. Uh, what do you say we just jump into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So yeah, first let's talk about this Chiefs Texans game. It went about how I thought it would go. It went about how Vegas thought it would go. I think the Chiefs were about like 8.5 point favorites. I said that the Chiefs would totally cover that number, that they would blow out the Texans, and they won by 9. So I was obviously right. It was a massive blowout. They totally covered.
Right.
No, they actually did cover by more, but then they took an intentional safety at the end of the game. So RIP if you had money on
Right.
just a different number. That was pretty crazy. But yeah, no, it wasn't really that close. I don't know. Texans defense did okay, but the Texans offense is just really sad. So sad, in fact, that the Texans just fired their offensive coordinator.
I
Um,
saw that.
yeah, that's pretty crazy. Did you have any other thoughts about that game? About
Oh, it
CJ
was
Stroud?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty close in the first half. I thought Houston was hanging around just enough in the first half, and then after that, I don't know. It just kind of it looks like they were the only team to score in the third quarter, so it was 12-13 going into the fourth. I mean, like how much closer can you get? And then they just completely fell on their face in the fourth quarter, which if you want to be a playoff team, you have to win in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no, I'll say this. I mean, I think there is a kind of a big takeaway from this game, and it's that with an extra week of rest, with Isaiah Pacheco getting healthy, Travis Kelsey's old bones, getting a little bit to recuperate. The Chiefs' offense still didn't look good. They
Mm,
still look very mid on offense. Defense did their job. They held the Texans in check for pretty much 4 quarters. The Texans never scored in double digits in any single one of the quarters.
true.
But I don't know. Yeah, the offense is still lacking. They don't have the firepower. Mahomes, what did he even? Yeah, he threw for 177 passing yards. So I don't know. I think they are kind of who we think they are, and I think they're primed to get bounced this weekend. I said that in the regular season, and I didn't see anything against
Wow.
the Texans to make me change my mind about that.
Okay. Okay. I love it. I love
Yeah,
to
well,
hear it.
we'll get there. We'll get to the conference
Yeah.
games. I don't mean to spoil anything, but
Sure. Sure.
um, man, speaking of spoiling, the Commanders sure played spoiler when they upset the number one seed Detroit Lions, everyone's second favorite team. Unless you're in Detroit, then it's your number one favorite team. Just absolutely destroyed them offensively. Like they couldn't be stopped. And defensively, I mean, the Lions scored 31 points, but they gave them fits on that side of the ball too. Uh, Holy cow, Jaden Daniels,
Yeah.
Andrew, yeah,
Jaden. Yeah. Jaden Daniels, especially in the second quarter, they score 4 touchdowns in 1 quarter. Like that is ridiculous. If your team scores 4 touchdowns in a game, you're happy. Like
yeah.
that's insane. Especially against Detroit, the number one team of the NFC. So, hats off to Jaden Daniels. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I said this guy was going to be a threat, and I didn't necessarily clarify in the playoffs this year. But man, he has proven me wrong. He has proven you wrong. He's proven everybody wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I always liked him as a prospect. I did not think he would do this. I mean, I'm on record saying that you can't actually be a serious Super Bowl contender with a rookie quarterback. I think the last one, maybe the only other one ever to make their conference championship as a rookie was Mark Sanchez with the Jets, and
Yeah,
he had an all time defense. And Jaden Daniels does not have that. Like the Jets
no,
were playing around Mark Sanchez, and the Commanders they are letting this rookie quarterback just absolutely carry them. And it's special. It's unprecedented. I want to point something else out that's kind of an emerging theme. I think the Commanders won the turnover battle 5-0 in this game.
wow,
So, I mean, are they actually a better team than the Lions? Maybe not, but they were that day, and
yeah.
that's when it counts. That's when you need to show up. That's when you need to bring your A game, and Goff threw 4 picks. So that's just devastating.
Yeah, Goff probably had his worst game his of the season, like hands down.
Yeah, I think
And
he threw 5 picks, one game in the regular season this year, but they won.
oh, okay. Oh, wow. I forgot about that one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. That's just disappointing when, especially when you have Jameer Gibbs have a monster game, St. Brown have a monster game. Man, that yeah, just Jared Goff is. I would rather have Jared Goff than 90% of the other quarterbacks in this league. And that game just something he just couldn't get out of his ways on that one. I don't know. That was just his worst game. And back to Jaden Daniels. So like, how happy is he that he has a couple veterans like Austin Eckler, like Zach Ertz, like Jamison Crowder that still plays in the NFL somehow. Like these guys are just all around him. Like, yeah, we got you, Not to say
yeah,
his talent he needs them absolutely, but these guys that are just like so clutch. I mean, Zach Ertz catching a touchdown I seemingly every game this year from him. Like Austin Eckler
yeah.
getting out of sticky long third downs to make him fourth and short or get the first down. Like, oh my gosh, he is just blessed with his team right now.
Yeah, no, that's a great observation, and those are all like really high character guys, and I think yeah, we all really slept on the Commanders and just how great their roster actually was. The only thing I kept pointing out is that they don't have a wide receiver too, but De'Ami Brown has been incredible these last 2 games. He's averaging like 90 yards a
Right?
game, doing everything you could ask of him. So. They have an amazing culture that they've built very quickly, and that's very very cool.
Yeah. Shout out Dan Quinn. Shout out Bobby Wagner. Hell yeah.
Absolutely. They're gonna take on the Eagles, which is Zach Ertz's former team. So that's something I'm kind of circling. I don't know why I've been on this beat. Maybe it's because I had him in a fantasy league of mine. But like, is Zach Ertz? If they mess around and win the Super Bowl this year, like, does Zach Ertz have a Hall of Fame case?
Oh my gosh, that's a great take. Oh my gosh.
He's top.
Probably, dude.
He's top 10. He's already top 10 all time in tight ends in receptions and yards. And I think he needs
Oh,
like 10 more touchdowns to be top 10 all time for tight ends and touchdowns. Um, I don't know. That's just kind of interesting. That's something that I thought
for
about.
sure. Tight end is a tough spot to earn a Hall of Fame spot. So,
It
like, they're
honestly
only
seems
the
like it. Yeah,
yeah,
there's this
only
cool
the greats
website.
get talking about. So,
Man,
I don't know.
I definitely want to go through that in the off season. There's a website called like Hall of Fame Watch or something like that. And it goes by position. It breaks down, okay, who's in the Hall of Fame? Here's where they rank. Uh, and yeah, it just has like the players who are actually in and the players who are active and the players who aren't in. Um, yeah, no, it's a fun conversation. Lots of active players at that position that are probably going to get in. Talking about Travis Kelsey over there on the other side, George
Mm-hmm.
Kittle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. That's a great offseason convo. But yeah,
I
lots of
love it.
great leadership on the Commanders, and I think they absolutely have a shot this weekend. We'll get to it. Another game that happened: the Eagles beat the Rams. Got a little hairy. It was pretty back and forth all game. Hurts actually picks up an injury, but ultimately Saquon just overpowers the Rams with a couple big runs. And to me, that felt like the story of the game. It was like he just took it. Like he's the best player on the field, and he just went out there and he took the W.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought this game was over at the 4 minute mark, 4:36 mark. Saquon does that huge run. That we've seen the clips, I'm sure, of him looking over at Jalen and saying, "Watch this," and then he does then he does that crazy run for the touchdown off the left side. I turned it off. I was like, "Okay, game's over." And I go and do something else, and then Marissa comes in. She's like, "Oh, let's put the game on." I'm like, "Ah, now." I was thinking she was meant the next game, the Bills Ravens game, and she's like, "Oh, the Rams have 2 minutes left, and they're going down to potentially win." Like, I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we threw it back on and watched the end of it. So yeah, good. I mean, good for the Rams for making it close, but just a little too late, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Rams are really good. We can't forget that.
Yeah,
Like I think I don't know what's going to go on in San Francisco, but the LA Rams
a
are
lot.
always going to be good. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, with that coach and that quarterback, for sure.
yeah, Stafford. I think he's still only like 36 years old, and I know he's got some back problems, but like the dude could play for 4 more years if he wanted to. Like,
Yeah, yeah, those be painful years for us Seattle fans if that was the case.
right, right. Uh, Saquon Barkley ran the ball 26 times for
Oh,
205 yards, and it could have been way more yards. He kind of slid down at the end.
mm,
And they did a couple QB kneels, but yeah, he had another breakaway run that he could have taken to the house if he wanted to.
what a blueprint for how to win a game. Have your best player on the team get the ball the most, run the most yards, and score the most.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. Have him run it 26 times, and then he catches 4 balls. So yeah, like 30 plus times. Just give it to your best player.
Right?
And shout out to that offensive line, offensive and defensive
Yes.
line. Those
Yes.
were both incredible. Um, Defensive line obviously ending the game, sacking Matthew Stafford to kill that last drive. They
Right.
they probably have the best offensive line and the best defensive line of the remaining teams, and that's a
They
very powerful thing.
Yeah, that's huge. Would you argue that they have agree that they have the most complete team?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said I like the Ravens because they have Lamar. They're the most dynamic, the most explosive. I like the Lions because of just the consistency that they've built. Um, but yeah, I think the roster of the Eagles is the most complete. It's the best top to bottom. I think the Lions have like better coaching, for example, but like yeah,
Mm,
no, it starts in the trenches, and the Eagles are
right.
at the top when it comes to both sides. Just And like you said, a total blueprint of like how to build a team, how to win a game. Um, that's awesome. And yeah, Hurts is a massive question mark. Um,
Really, I didn't know that he was such a question mark going into this game.
oh, he's not a question mark as to whether or not he'll play. Like he said, he'll play,
Oh, okay.
but he's like I don't know what state he's going to be in, what state his knees are going to be in, if
Mm,
he can actually run, if he's going to be mobile in the pocket. Like that's a huge deal for Hurts's game, for just in pocket mobility, like being able to avoid the rush and all that stuff.
right, right,
I
and get
don't know
outside the
what that's
pocket.
going to look like. Vegas seems to think, and we're skipping ahead a little bit, but they're still 6 point favorites despite the fact that their quarterback is banged up. That feels like a
Right.
lot against a team that just embarrassed the Lions. Um, man, speaking of the Lions, you see like the interviews post game with like Dan Campbell and
Oh,
everyone else.
that
That
just breaks your heart.
yeah, it's so sad. Like it's so sad. Like hearing like a grown man cry because he sees like they've worked so hard and they deserve it. Oh
I
my
mean,
god.
that's just that. How do you not want to play for a guy like that? I mean, he is just truly a player's coach. We all know that already, but
Yeah.
it's moments like those where he becomes so vulnerable and such a true human that win or lose, you're like, I don't want anybody else as my HC.
Right, right. No, it's pretty wild that only one team lifts the trophy and you have 31 other teams like dedicating their lives to trying to do that and like 31 out of 32 teams are going to fail. Like this has been the experience with the Lamar and the Ravens, with Josh Allen and the Bills, right? You're a great squad, you just can't get there because only one team can, right? And now that the Lions
Right.
are experiencing that, um,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yep.
just because they've they haven't had a Super Bowl ever, just because they're doing everything the right way, it doesn't mean you're gonna win the Super Bowl.
Right.
You still have to go out there and score more points than the other team, and when you lose the turnover battle 5-zip, yeah, that's a recipe for absolute disaster. All right, final game in the divisional round. Let's talk Ravens. Let's talk Bills. Um, I went pretty hard for the Ravens. I bet on the Ravens with my money, with my podcast, with my reputation. Right, I was a huge. I was all in on this team, doing it all this year. Derrick Henry still in his prime somehow, and they got two great tight ends. The defense was getting healthy; they were coming around, and just like the Lions lost a turnover battle, the Ravens lost a turnover battle, 3-0 in this case. The weather played a massive factor, but both teams had to play in it, right? I mean, it was in
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, so hats off to the Buffalo Bills for not letting that weather impact them. That's what you earn for being the number two seed, right? Is that the right to
Right.
play at home, and you get that weather, and you take advantage of it, whether it's forcing the fumble in the case of Mark Andrews or an unforced fumble in the case of Lamar Jackson, where he's pressured and he's running around and he just literally puts the ball on the ground. Um, that was the difference in the game to me because besides that, they were evenly matched. You could even say
Mm-hmm.
the Ravens played better outside of those moments in terms of yardage and production. I know Andy, you and I were talking about it a little bit, talking about that last play that the Ravens get the ball back. They drive all the way down the field. They're down by 8. They need an octopus, as they say. You need to score a touchdown, go for 2 and get it, score 8 points. They score a touchdown. I think it was like a minute and some change left on the clock. And then they go for 2. Lamar hits Andrews right in the chest. Ball bounces off. Game over. What were your thoughts on that play, Annie?
Yeah, I texted you right away and it was like, I swear this has happened before. I just something in my brain was telling me Mark Andrews has failed a 2-point conversion before in a crucial moment. And sure enough, I just go onto YouTube, type it in, and 3 years ago they lose to Pittsburgh because they go for the win at 19-20 in a playoff game, and they could throw it to Mark Andrews wide open, and again drops it for the win. So this wasn't for the win this time, but it just seemed like a trend. And then like a day later, I'm scrolling on my YouTube shorts, and sure enough, somebody put a compilation of
Mm,
Mark Andrews dropping 2-point conversions, because apparently he had dropped another one against the Packers during the regular season of that same year. So
interesting.
I was like, man, this is like a weird trend of his where they go to him on 2-point conversions. And I mean, you said it back to me, was like, where is Derrick Henry in these scenarios?
Yeah, you need 2 yards. You have Derrick Henry. As Seahawks fans, maybe we're a little biased, right? Maybe maybe because of what we've been through, it seems obvious to us that the right move is to hand it to one of the best running backs in the game. But yeah, and you have Lamar. I would have been fine with a design run for him as well. But man, yeah, that just felt risky. But he was wide open, and Lamar hit him. So you could argue that it was a good play and that it worked. The play call worked. You could
Mm-hmm.
definitely argue that. You could also argue that Mark Andrews isn't clutch, and that with the weather being how it was, it felt like I watched the whole game, and it felt like every pass that Lamar floated was caught, and every pass that Lamar had to like laser in there, they had a hard time with. Which makes all the sense in the
Interesting.
world. From like if you're a receiver, you'd rather it, float and come back down to you. But yeah, in like 15-degree weather in the snow, these passes that you have such a tiny window in terms of time and space, you got to like boom, fire it in there. It's just kind of a lower percentage play than I think it is. And earlier in the game, they had gone for two. I forget what the exact scoring was at the time, but they went for two earlier in the game, and they targeted Isaiah Likely, and that also fell incomplete. I don't think it was an outright drop, but it was an incomplete attempt. And it's like, man, if they had just gone for one then, they could have gone for one then, and then this game would have gone to overtime, probably.
They Yeah, they were down by 2. It was 19-21.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it wasn't in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter, I don't think.
It was in the third. Yep.
Yeah, so it's like I don't know. That feels really like you're so desperate to tie it, but like there's plenty of game to go. Just take the
Yeah.
point. I don't know. I don't know. It's easy to
That
question now, right?
Right, right,
But
right.
yeah, clearly the Ravens and John Harbaugh they love targeting the tight end on 2-point conversions like that, and it's not working.
It's not working, and like you said, especially when you go out and get a guy like Derrick Henry, like you would think at least one of those attempts is just getting the
A
ball to
run.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Maybe not running right up the middle because that's so obvious, but some type of scheme designed to get him the ball and power through.
Right, right. So
So,
you could say it all came down to that play. You could say the Ravens, if it weren't for those turnovers, they were right there. But the reality is they did commit those 3 turnovers. And if they had gotten, like if Mark Andrews caught that ball, the Bills would have gotten it back. Josh Allen would have gotten it back with like a minute to go. And
yeah.
a field goal wins them the game at that point. And if you stop them,
Ex-
it still goes to overtime. So it's still a coin flip. So the Bills absolutely deserve to win. They played a great, clean game, and we're going to talk about that. The fact that they were just turnover free once again, and that's been the difference with this year's Bills as opposed to years past. Like they've always been explosive. Josh Allen's been running people over. Nothing new, but what is new this year is that Josh Allen is like pretty much mistake free. He's thrown such few interceptions. He's just been so safe with the ball, and he's making safe choices. Um, yeah, I love what I'm seeing from them.
Yeah, I do too. I think Josh Allen has really grown, and this is like almost this. We could argue this is his final form. I mean, this is the best player he has ever been. And remember Josh Allen's first playoff game against the Houston Texans? It was when Deshaun was good and he was on Houston, and it was like this weird score of a game, like 19-12, 19-15, or something like that. Josh Allen has the ball late, trying to go win the game. and he's running with the football. He gets tackled, and right before he gets tackled, he like does this weird like Huck Tua behind him and to Dawson Knox or somebody, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" And luckily, it went out of bounds. But we're all screaming at the TV like, "You cannot be doing that!"
Yeah.
And that was young Josh Allen. That was inexperienced. Trying to do everything possible, and now this, like I'm saying, he's evolved. This is his final form. He doesn't do those silly mistakes. He knows when to pass it, hand it off. He knows when he can run and dodge a couple guys, juke him, get that first down, get that touchdown. Like, this is the Josh Allen we've all been waiting for. And like you said earlier, I really hope you're right on this is the one time that they finally overtake the Chiefs.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a break from chatting about the games to talk about some news that broke pretty recently. Um, and I know every Seahawks fan I know is pretty excited about it. Pete Carroll has been hired by the Las Vegas Raiders to be their new head coach for the next 3 years or so. And I think he's 72 years old right now. He was the oldest head coach in the league when he
Right.
left the Seahawks, and so he's definitely still the oldest head coach in the league. Now he's going to be wearing the black and silver for the Vegas Raiders. What was your reaction when you saw that news, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, a little sour about it because I love the guy, and but at the same time, I'm glad he got a new coaching gig. And the Raiders, I have a weird thing about the Raiders, and so I was happy to see him get a coaching gig. That's really ultimately where I fell on all this.
There are
And
worse teams. Like, I don't know what you've
yeah,
been through, but like there were rumors of him joining the Niners staff.
oh,
The Cowboys have an open position at head coach. Like that would have been harder for
mm,
me. Either one of those
true.
destinations.
True. But what a great division for him to land in. Goes against Andy
Absolutely.
Reid, Sean Payton, and of course his arch rival John Harbaugh. I mean,
Jim
Jim
Harbaugh.
Harbaugh.
Yeah,
Jim Harbaugh.
yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, like what a great time this is going to be for NFL fans watching these four head coaches, all these four chess masters play chess against each other.
No, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, the Raiders, all they need is a quarterback now. So
We'll
there's
see.
there's actually a long way to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, in terms of what this means for the Raiders, what I'm hearing is that Tom Brady, the new part owner, he has a lot of say in that building, even though he's not like a majority shareholder. Um, just imagine you're one of those owners and you have an idea, and Tom Brady says, "Well, I actually have a different idea about football." Like, imagine pushing back against that. If Tom Brady has an idea, are you going to argue with Tom Brady? You know,
No. You'd say, yeah, you're right, Tom. That my idea was silly. Let's
yeah,
go with
yeah,
yours.
yeah. So if Tom Brady's chooses to be involved, which it sounds like he's very involved in the Raiders,
Oh yeah.
I
Why
think
wouldn't he be?
he not only signed off on this, I think he pursued this, and he was really excited about getting Pete Carroll in the building. To me, this hire, and it's kind of ironic because of his age, but this hire to me feels like a very smart, very like patient hire that isn't like we need to compete right now. We need to compete right now. This is kind of a let's bring someone into this building that's going to reset, that's going to establish a new culture. Because that's what Pete Carroll has done best everywhere he's gone is he has established a new culture. He's kind of totally overridden what was there before, and he's just he's so great at like building the foundation of a winning team. And in Seattle, I know he was obviously asked to walk away from the job of head coach, basically fired after years. But the Seahawks were never a bad team. They were hovering around 500 even after everyone was saying things like the game has passed him by. He's too
Mm,
old for this. He doesn't have any new ideas. Um, I think the Seahawks probably made the right move, but that doesn't mean he can't coach in this league. Like at his worst, he was like a 500 coach,
Right.
because he had just built such an amazing culture in Seattle, and I think the Raiders are very smart to try and recapture some of that. That's kind of my takeaway from it, because I don't think he's a brilliant like X's and O's guy anymore, but he's great at everything else that comes along with being a head coach.
True. True. I can't argue that. The only pushback that I have on this type of a move is if you're in such a you know where you're at. You're in a rebuild state. So why bring in somebody that is going to set a certain tone and set a certain culture, and then after 3, maybe 4 years, maybe only 2 years, that person's just going to leave, and you're going to bring in somebody else that's going to have to rehaul that whole image, that whole culture that got built up. I didn't really understand that type of mindset to where wouldn't you want a head coach that you could potentially have for the next 10 years and have build that type of culture?
Yeah, I don't know how old is too old to coach in the NFL. I just don't know. So we'll see on that. They can always extend him if they want to extend him, but
True.
yeah, we'll see. Yeah, and in a perfect world, he brings in some coaches that he shares his mindset with, and then eventually he's
Mm,
able to kind of pass the baton. I think that's in a perfect world, that's what's going to end up happening. But
okay. Okay. That makes
yeah,
more
I
sense.
don't know.
Yeah.
I like the move. I still don't know where they're going with the roster. Maybe Tom Brady's gonna draft a quarterback in the seventh round, and he's gonna
Oh
practice with him
boy.
every day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, the last thing I had on this, I with their 1 year out of the league. Pete Carroll was out of the league for just 1 year, and so was Bill Belichick. And I thought Bill Belichick's kind of floating out there. No one really cares about him. No teams are interested in hiring him. And then he takes a job in college football. And I don't know. I kind of thought Pete Carroll was viewed in a similar light. Like he was kind of in the same boat. If you're an
Mm,
NFL team and you want to hire one of those guys, I'm probably choosing the guy who won 5 Super Bowls. Um, but it seems like Pete Carroll was more desirable as a head coach than Bill Belichick, which I think that's super interesting. To me, that speaks volumes. Especially it's Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady could have hired Bill Belichick. You know?
yeah, I think he tried to. I think that's where he went first. I think
Oh,
Pete
you
Carroll
think
was
so?
his second option. Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that, but you could be right. I mean, I know he was kind of like sort of contractually obligated to this college job, but yeah, I'm sure Brady was asking him where he's at with it. But
Yeah. Yeah. I
Belichick
would
sounds
guess
happy
that
over there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, how cool this is for Pete. I mean, this is his fourth head coaching gig. So and
It's awesome. It's a win
yeah,
for the fans. It's a win for the players in Vegas. It's a win for Carroll. It's a win for the league.
right,
It just makes it
right,
more interesting. It's just like when Jim Harbaugh came back to the NFL. He's a huge character, and he's a very interesting dude, and he's good. He's good at what he does. So
right. And there's going to be even more spotlight on this team because of the whole Tom Brady ownership. So yeah, I totally agree.
yeah, and there's plenty of time to talk about their off-season strategy and the roster and the draft and everything like that. Again,
Hmm.
we're going
Hmm.
to be pumping out a ton of off-season content for you guys. We're going to really hit it hard this off-season, and I'm so excited to dive into the free agency class, dive into the rookie class, and yeah, everything that comes along with that. So we're going to put a pin in that, though. 'Cause again, we got months to figure that out. We have a couple
Right.
days before the NFC and AFC championship games as we record this. Um, man, Bills, Chiefs, Commanders, Eagles. I got some interesting nuggets for both of these games. We saw both of these teams play in Week 11 this year. Isn't that funny?
Whoa, that's trippy.
Yeah, yeah. The Eagles, it was in Philadelphia, just like it will be this Sunday, and the Eagles won. It was close, like all game, and then they really pulled away in the fourth quarter. Um, The Eagles missed 2 field goals and an extra point in that game, so the scoreboard was closer than the game was. I'll say that. And then when the Bills played the Chiefs, obviously the Bills won. That was the Chiefs' only loss of the entire season, right? Or oh no, they lost the Week 18 game where they weren't trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their
That
only
doesn't
real
count.
loss was against the Bills.
Right.
This was in Buffalo, unlike this weekend's game.
Mm.
And that game against Buffalo was back and forth. It was very close. Ultimately, the Bills pulled it through, and yeah, that's super interesting. And another note for this weekend's games: no weather problems. It won't be snowing in either location. It's outside. Both games are outside, and it's going to be cold, but not like bitter cold. It's going to be like mid 30s, clear skies in Kansas City and in Philadelphia. It's just going to be perfect conditions, honestly, for playing football.
What more can you ask for?
Exactly. No, I love it. I love both of these matchups. Chiefs are favored by 2.5 points against the Bills. Let's go ahead and start there, Andy. Um, I love the Bills. I love the Bills to win this game. They won in the regular season, and the Chiefs just don't. They look like they just don't have it. I feel like any analytics based argument there is to be made, like it favors the Bills. Like any numbers you want to drudge up, the Bills
Mm.
have the advantage. And I think based on anything having to do with what we've seen in the regular season, like the Bills are the better team. Um, I think the only arguments in favor of the Chiefs are the narrative arguments. Like the Chiefs in the playoffs are so good. Like they're the Chiefs, like they're the champs, and like you have to bet on the champs until they lose. It's uh, yeah, it's so scary to pick against the Chiefs because so many people have been made to look like idiots over and over again. Andy, where are you on this matchup?
Yeah. I'm gonna pick you up right where you left off there. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have gotten to the point where they're the Tom Brady and the Patriots. You just don't pick against them. You can put any doubters in front of them, any type of reason, and they have just that little it factor that can't be explained. But when it becomes the playoff time, him and Andy Reid are just unstoppable, and that has nothing to do with the defense, but yet the defense is unstoppable as well. The defense are making all the right plays. Chris Jones becomes like this extra level,
Yeah.
the defensive line, the cornerbacks, everybody just turns it on to a different level that we haven't, especially this year, we haven't seen them produce. And the Bills are just so much fun to watch. I don't know if I've said this before on the podcast, but I believe the Bills have the best running back group in the league. Maybe
Mm.
Detroit,
Mm.
maybe Detroit could contest or is like 1B and the Bills are 1A because you have James Cook that has breakaway speed. He can juke people. He can run up the middle. He can do a lot, right? And then you have Ty Johnson that can catch one-handed touchdown catches off of Josh Allen running around, throwing it off to his side from super deep. And Ty Johnson has breakaway speed, and then you have Ray Davis, like the right up the gut guy, but can also catch like over the shoulder, run down the sideline and beat anybody on the field. And then you kind of have to throw Josh Allen in there. So yeah, this team has the best running back group out of everybody. And what they ask them to do, they all have certain roles, but they can all interchange the roles of each other, which is just mind blowing and so fun to watch. And I think all the pressure has really come off of Josh Allen because there's no alpha there wide receiver wise, right? Like this is the first year we're seeing a non Stephon Diggs, non like high tier wide receiver must give me the ball. Like because of that, I feel he's just a lot more relaxed, a lot more free to understand that I don't need to make sure this guy gets a certain amount of catches. I don't need to make sure he feels wanted by the team. I'm going to get the ball to the person that is going to do the best in that certain spot, and we're going to go win the game because of it. And that might be me. That might be Dawson Knox, like old Dawson Knox. That might be
Yep.
Shakir. It doesn't matter. Like this team is so selfless, and it just shows on the football field. And if this is the year, I mean, we said this last year that if this is the year, this is the year to get the Chiefs, because what they were like, they did win their division, but they weren't the number 1 seed, and it was in Buffalo last year, and they didn't do it. But
Yeah.
man, this year is just, I just feel like it's such a selfless team that they understand what it's going to take to win.
I love that. Yeah. I love what you said about sharing the ball. They have so many different ways to beat you. That running back room, what you have James Cook, Ty Johnson, and Ray Davis. They both have very unique roles, right? Ty Johnson's the pass catching back, the scat back. Ray Davis is just going to bully you over. And it's just such a dynamic, well run machine. I love their run game, even against this matchup. I think they're going to have a lot of success. Um, Man, yeah, what you're saying about going up against the Chiefs, and every year it seems like it's their year to do it, but then the Chiefs keep winning. Um, I have a perfect analogy for you, and you're a basketball guy, so I feel like you might appreciate this. But it felt like how back in the late '80s, Michael Jordan on the Bulls, he's the best player in the league. He's just physically dominating people. But then you get into the playoffs, and there's another team that is just a better all-around team. Whatever it is about them, the Detroit Pistons just kept beating them in the playoffs over and over again, and just winning championship after championship. And just feels like the Bulls kept trying to figure out a different way to do it, and it felt like their year. Well, they have the best player. Why can't they win? Why can't they get all the way there? Why can't they get to the Super Bowl? It's because there's this other team in their same conference that's just a roadblock, and you will never be favored. Just like the Bills aren't favored in this game, they're underdogs. You'll never be favored. No one will actually believe in you until you get over the hump and you finally take down that roadblock that's in your way. And of course, the Chiefs are like the Pistons, right? And everyone hates them, right? And they are very successful. And now it's up to the Bills to be the Bulls and actually take them down. And when they do, I think they could open up their own dynasty run. Like I think they're right there. So is this another year where the bad boys of the league like get another championship, or is this the year
Right.
that they finally break through and the Bills go on to their first Super Bowl?
Oh boy. Well, yeah. Oh. What's crazy is the other side of this is if Kansas City does win, they're going for their three-peat. Like
Right.
that's the crazy part that a lot of us just don't want to talk about, is just how phenomenal the Chiefs have been over these last 5 years or so. 5, 6, 7 years, you could argue. I mean, it's just unfathomable, and yet here they are about to do it. So on one side, you're right, we get to see Josh Allen in the Super Bowl, and we get to see this amazing Bills teams that we've all been waiting for these last 3 years or so. Or the other side, we get Kansas City that could potentially win their third Super Bowl in a row. That's never been done before. So what an exciting side of the AFC.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I had really high hopes for the Ravens, but I knew before that game even started that I was picking either the Bills or the Ravens to beat the Chiefs, because it just really feels like the Chiefs are primed to get picked off, and I love what both of those teams are doing. I absolutely love the offense that the Bills have. The defense seems a little shaky, but they've gotten some team leaders healthy and back. But then they just lost Taylor Rapp, their safety. They
I didn't
drafted
know
one of
that.
one of the best safeties in the draft this last year. So they're going to be asking a rookie, Cole Bishop, to start for them in the AFC Championship game. He's a very
Ooh,
talented kid. It's not like he hasn't seen the field. He's been in there, but I don't know that he's started a whole lot. So
gotcha.
that's something to
Gotcha.
circle. But man, I would love for the Bills to just blow them out. And just like the Bulls did with the Pistons when they finally broke through, it was a sweep. It was 4-0. And I would love for that to happen on Sunday. But I don't know. In terms of where I'm picking this game, I'm picking the Bills. And in terms of betting this game, Chiefs are favored by 2.5. So it's a pretty easy choice to just take Bills money line. I don't need plus 2.5. If I think they're going to win the game, I'm just going to bet on them to win
Right.
the game.
Right. I hear you there.
Sounds like you're picking the Bills as well.
Oh gosh, yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
definitely, definitely. Let's make it happen, baby. Sorry, Chiefs. Your fandom is your run is over for this year.
All
Yeah.
right, let's go to the NFC. Let's go talk about Eagles versus Commanders. Division rivals. Kind of reminds me of like, I mean, it's not the best analogy, but I was just thinking about how like the Seahawks and 49ers would meet in the conference championship, and like
Mm,
over and over again. Um, so we have another case of division rivals in the conference championship game. They played each other twice, as division mates do. The home team won both times. I already talked about Week 11 and how the Eagles won, but in Week 16, this was in D.C., and this was one of the best games of the season. It's where Hurts left the game early. Chauncey Gardner Johnson, he got ejected early, and the Commanders they just went back and forth scoring points. Kenny Pickett led a couple of scoring drives, but ultimately Jaden Daniels took over, particularly in the fourth quarter, and they won by 3. Um, I said at the time that I didn't wasn't taking away much from the Eagles and the fact that they lost this game because of all the kind of craziness that surrounded it, but I did take away from it that the Commanders can hang with anybody. Um,
hmm.
and so here they are. They're gonna have to play the Eagles again. This time, go back to Philly, and they're 6-point dogs, which I thought was shocking. After what they did to the Lions, they're still 6-point underdogs. And Hurts, his knee is banged up. So, what were
Mm.
your thoughts on this matchup and the point spread and all that? Where are you at?
So yeah, right as the all the divisional games ended, I actually in my head I predicted what the spreads would be
Mm,
for these matchups, and I said, I remember I remember saying to myself, I'm guessing Philly is going to get like a 6, and I think Kansas City might get like a 3 or so, probably not more than 4. And sure enough, I mean, like I
yeah.
there's no proof, but I definitely remember thinking about this and saying Philly's probably getting 6 points. They got 7.5 against the Rams. I feel like 6 is pretty much right on the mark of this game. The Commanders, they've really been coming on as late. Obviously, yes, they destroy Detroit, but there's something like Vegas knows it. We see it. We've talked. We just said how Philly has the most complete team in the NFL. Saquon is that extra 3 points. I think you get that 3 point bump, and
Mm,
Saquon gives you another 2 to 3 of difference making because this guy is on a tear. This guy is here to prove he belongs in the names of the greats, and I don't see I don't see how anybody's changing that direction, stopping him. I mean, it is so fun to watch because you can tell he has been dragged through the mud for over these last couple years on the Giants, and now he is like, no pun intended, like a free bird. Like he is just running with all his might, giving everything
yeah.
he's got every time he's out there, and I love to watch it. And I think that's where the difference is going to come in this. I don't know how good the Commanders defense is going to be when it comes to stopping Saquon.
Yeah, no, this Eagles team has, I've described them as a vibes team all year. When vibes are good, their team is good. When vibes are bad, they could collapse at any moment. And
Mm,
vibes are so high. I mean, Saquon is having so much fun. He's having the time of his life out there. The offensive line is too. I know they're very proud to have like a 2,000-yard rusher, and The most concerning part about the Eagles is Jalen Hurts. It is the passing game, his knee, but like they haven't really been passing much. So it's like I don't know. I think as long as Saquon's healthy, I like the Eagles' offensive line versus the Commanders' defensive line. I like the
Mm-hmm.
Eagles' defensive line versus the Commanders' offensive line. Um, I'm not going to talk about Jaden Daniels' inexperience anymore because I've already been made stupid talking about how, oh, he's a rookie, he can't do it. So that's out the window. I really don't know what to do. I like the Eagles in this game. I'm going to pick the Eagles. 6 points, that's more than I thought it would be, but maybe it's the perfect line because I really have no idea what to do. Because if you're giving the Commanders those points in a crazy game with Jaden Daniels, like that's the thing, man. Like other teams, they could not get Jaden Daniels off the field. The Tampa Bay
Mm-hmm.
Buccaneers defense, it's not a good defense. They really struggled to get Jaden Daniels off the field. When it was 3rd and 3, he would find Zach Ertz for a 5 yard completion. When it was 4th and 2, Jaden Daniels would scramble to the edge and dive forward and get 3 yards. It's just like you just can't get them off the field. You cannot get that time of possession back. Um, the Lions defense without Aiden Hutchinson, the Bucks defense that's been sketch all year. Um, Now you're facing the Eagles defense, who's like mostly healthy, and they're like mostly Pro Bowlers. It feels like, and yeah, I'm taking the Eagles to win the game. If I had to lean one way or the other, I guess I picked the Commanders to cover the spread, keep it close, just because they've been playing out of their minds. But I don't know.
Oh, that's exactly where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
I mean, the like I just said, they got 7.5. They got 7.5 against the Rams, and they won by 6. So they're getting 6 here. They're probably going to win by 3 or 4. The Commanders are using a really ultra aggressive strategy. They're going for it on a lot of fourth downs. Like you said, it's hard to get them off the field. They're usually converting those fourth downs. I
yeah,
think they
yeah.
went four for 5 against the Detroit Lions last week. So yeah, it's going to be a close game. I mean, shoot, you just mentioned the last game they played. They only won by 3. That was a 36-33, and that was with Kenny Pickett in for most of the game. So this is going to be a close battle. This is going to be a great game to watch. I'm excited to see how Jaden Daniel faces that defensive front, faces those
Mm-hmm.
linebackers. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be clean. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury is calling plays for the Commanders, and then Kellen Moore is calling the plays for the Eagles. I mean, what a great, like, I know they're not going technically head to head, but what a great mind game that's going to be of these play calls, and then who makes the breakaway plays. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome matchup. I think it'll be pretty close the whole game. Um, I like the Eagles to pull it out. They have experience, and yeah, I think they have good coaching in terms of their offensive play caller and their defensive play caller, Vic Fangio.
Hmm.
I trust him. If I trust any defensive coordinator in the league to handle what Jaden Daniels is doing, it's him. And I still
Yes.
think Jaden Daniels will have some success. But man, yeah, I am not as confident on this game as I am the Bills Chiefs game.
Mm.
But that kind of makes me a little more excited to watch it, if anything. Um,
Yeah. How crazy would it be if a rookie makes it to the Super Bowl? I mean,
that
that
would be
would just,
insane.
and how crushed would you be if you're a Bears fan?
Let's talk about the Commanders' defense. Numbers wise, they're not one of the best defenses in the league, but they have incredible leadership, especially when it comes to their linebackers, Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. Um, Everybody knows Bobby Wagner, right? He's a future Hall of
Hmm.
Famer, and it's awesome that he's working with Dan Quinn and that he's like leading this team from the defensive side of the ball. I think every Seahawks fan I know is totally rooting for this guy, and they want to see him lift another Super Bowl trophy. Um, I'm a little bitter that he left, but I guess it was more Mike McDonald trying to usher in a new era than it was Bobby trying to bounce.
Hmm.
I guess I'm still a little bitter from when he went to the Rams. A lot of Seahawks kind of forget that, but he tried to ring
Right.
chase and go to the Rams, which that really bothered me. But I love Frankie Louvu. He is a great dude, undrafted, and then he worked through the Carolina Panthers team, eventually clawed his way into the starting lineup and just started balling out for like the last 2 years of his undrafted rookie contract. Like he was making nothing at a high impact position, putting his body on the line, making a name for himself out of nowhere. And then he becomes one of the biggest free agent defenders of this last offseason. The Commanders signed him to a massive deal, and he's continued to play up to that. He is not the technical play diagnosing tackling machine that Bobby Wagner is. Frankie Louvu's a little more like freaky athletic, and he is going to sack Jalen Hurts. It's just a matter of how many times, right? The Commanders
Mm.
love to blitz him in different ways. So that's something that I'm circling for that side of the ball, right? When the Eagles' offense is on the field, what are the linebackers doing? How are they handling Saquon Barkley, right? Like we're gonna see Saquon and Bobby Wagner, and like Bobby Wagner, man, he is a little past his prime, but he's still an above average starting NFL
Still
middle
killing
inside
it.
linebacker. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
um, that's gonna be huge. Obviously, I don't think anyone's betting against Saquon, but like if you can just keep him in check. I was talking to a coworker about like the Adrian Peterson incredible 2,000 yard season, right? Um, he was absolutely lights out, right? Adrian Peterson coming off that ACL, everyone knows
Hmm.
that. But like they still got bounced in the playoffs. So it's like Peterson can like he got his, but the team still lost the game. Like that is a
Mm.
realistic outcome for this Eagles team. Like maybe not if
Sure.
he breaks off a couple mega runs and has 200 yards, but if you can hold Barkley to 100 yards or 110, 120, I think it's very realistic that the Commanders can win this game.
Hmm. That's a good point. Um, yeah, you're totally right on that. I think I think the defense on the Commanders is such a mishmash. I mean, I know they've only
Yeah,
had Dan Quinn for this year. I know they've had a GM, so they haven't had time to have like quote unquote homegrown,
not at all.
drafted
Yeah.
players really come up. Like it's such a pick and pop type of a defense, and it's working. I mean, when you have Dan Quinn on his second go around as a head coach, I know he's spoken publicly about how in Atlanta he was just trying to do so much and he wasn't delegating very well, and now this time around you can just tell, you can see him on the sideline, like he is just locked into that defense. He lets Cliff and others take care of the offense, and I mean, Bobby Wagner leading the team in tackles, 100 with 132
Yeah,
total
insane.
tackles. Like, yeah, it's just do we expect anything less from Bobby at this point? And just a couple other random names like Daron Payne, like you said, Luvu, Quan Martin, and they went and got Marshawn Lattimore during the season.
That's right. Yeah.
Like it's a pick and pull defense, but it is working, and so
Yeah, it's
it I'll
wild
be
how quickly they've thrown this together. Like first
yes,
year
thank
head
you.
coach, free agent signings like Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin at strong safety. Like these are
Safety.
guys with first year with the team, and then yeah, you had Marshawn Lattimore halfway through the year, so he's been with the team for half a year, and
Right.
it's I struggle to say it's working because they're giving up a lot of points, but they're managing the
Mm,
game. They're keeping the opponent in check. I would say. Can they do
yeah.
that against Saquon Barkley? That's the question. And then on the flip side, can the Eagles defense get Jaden Daniels off the field? Uh, Dan Quinn going for it on fourth down like crazy. Jaden Daniels converting on those fourth downs like crazy. Like that's the story of the game to me, and I'm
Yeah,
super
they
excited to watch it.
they need to get them to like anything like 4th and 4 or more, like, because if it's 4th and 3 or less, they're going for it.
Yeah. All right. Did you have any other thoughts for those two games?
No, the only other thought I had was I think it's on the Eagles side, like talking about how complete of a team. A basic fan, what's crazy is a basic fan, you could probably name at least one person on each level of their offense and their defense. You could probably name a DB, linebacker, defensive lineman, and then the offense obviously is a lot more popular and easier to do. But you can't say that about many teams in the NFL, like where you can name at least one starting player on each level, and I just think that's pretty cool for the Eagles.
Yeah, it is. They're absolutely loaded, and yeah, they have guys first year with the team who are contributing too. We talk about those rookies in the secondary. I really like their chances against De'Ami Brown, Terry McLaurin. They're probably going to get theirs at some point, but you just have to keep them in check, and it's all about Jaden Daniels, really.
Yeah, and I mean that was the big glaring flaw last year with the Eagles, right? It was their secondary. They
Absolutely.
have a great linebacking core, they have a great defensive line, but their secondary is just giving up everything over the top. And this year, I mean, within 1 year, Howie Roseman gets the right guys, and the coaches make sure that they get in the right spots to fix that glaring issue.
All right, well, I think that's all we have for you guys this week. Thanks for joining us. Next week, obviously, we're going to talk about these games, and then we're going to preview the freaking Super Bowl. And then there was some extra time in there, so we're going to cover all the other news around the league, the other coaching hires, what it means. We're going to dig into some fantasy football implications of that. But yeah, we're really just trying to enjoy these playoffs, and I hope you guys do too. Thanks for rocking with us, and see ya.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks a ton for making it to the end of the episode. You're a real one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That's a free, easy way to support the show, and it really helps us out. And leave us your comments down below if you're on YouTube, or send in your questions at thefantasyflowpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.